Hello and welcome to another webinar in partnership with HackerJob. So today HackerJob are joined by Ordnance Survey, obviously a brand that I'm sure a lot of people are very familiar with, and obviously underpins a lot of the services that we use today when it comes to the mapping and GIS kind of location software. So we're going to find out a little bit more today about Ordnance Survey from some very talented people that currently work there. We're just going to give it a few moments just for obviously the webinar to fill up. So thank you to everyone who is in nice and early. Always good to see some early birds in. Just in terms of a little bit of housekeeping, please do not use the hands up feature or the raised hands feature. We won't be able to kind of stop and ask questions as we're going through the presentations. Please do submit your questions via the Q&A feature though. We do have 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the webinar sectioned off purely for Q&A, so we'll try and get through as many of those questions as we can at that point. However, we will be emailing out a video, a recording of this webinar afterwards, so if you do miss any of it, you will have that in your email inbox in the next couple of days. And we can also follow up on any questions that we don't get the chance to answer live on the call, so we can definitely make sure that any of your questions are answered. I can see the attendees starting to fill up now, so we'll just give it another minute or two and then we'll get cracking. So just before we start off with the interesting bit, I'll give you a little introduction into HackerJob ourselves. So HackerJob is a data-driven and engaging recruitment platform operating in the digital sector. We use key data points to find candidates' jobs uniquely based on their CV and skill sets, ensuring both candidates and companies can conduct a more relevant and targeted approach to recruitment. Beyond that, we offer support before and after interviews, as well as offering candidates the opportunity to show off their skills through coding challenges and project uploads. Now, as mentioned, we're joined today by some incredibly talented people from Ordnance Survey. So Ordnance Survey enables smarter solutions to the world's most complex problems, turning location data into real-world benefits. Their growing technology and design team plays a key role in ensuring the Ordnance Survey is at the cutting edge of geospatial capability, and their mission is to work across the business to provide customer-centric design and technology services. Now, we've already done a couple of things with the Ordnance Survey. We did a great podcast with the Ordnance Survey a couple of months ago, so I'm really excited for this webinar. Always keen to hear more about how the geospatial software is being applied to day-to-day life, but also what it's like to work at such a great brand. So just one final thing from me, please do use the Q&A feature rather than the raised hands feature. We will be able to get back to any questions that way, either live or via email afterwards when we send you out a recording of the webinar. But that's more than enough for me for now. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Chris New, who is a lead business and change analyst at the Ordnance Survey.
Thank you, Phil. I'm just going to see if I can share my screen, which hopefully I am now doing. So, as Phil said, can you see my screen, Phil?
Yeah, all good. Perfect.
My name is Chris New. I joined OS 6.5 years ago, just as OS was coming out of the civil service, and I chose OS because being a business analyst is all about supporting change, and I figured there would be a lot going on. I kind of wasn't wrong. My first role was as a requirements analyst working on the OS Maps application at the time the OS was starting to properly adopt agile development practices that have now become the norm within the organization. Since then, I've become a business analyst, a senior business analyst, and I'm now the lead business and change analyst. In my current role, I lead a team of 24, so I figured I'd give you an overview of what we do and some of the things we work on. Phil, can I just check, can you see that screen of a PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah, all good.
Cool. So for those of you that are good at maths, you can see from the slide that the team is currently made up of 4 senior BAs, 14 BAs, 5 apprentice BAs, and me. The team includes people whose experience ranges from newly recruited apprentices who are learning what it means to be a business analyst to certified analysts with decades of experience of working either at OS or elsewhere. We are a growing team in response to more demand for business analysts on project work as we get better at what we do and people understand the value that business analysts can bring to a project. And we will be advertising more vacancies in the next few weeks. We introduced the apprentice business analyst role about 4 years ago because we weren't able to recruit analysts of the right caliber with the right skills and experience that we needed. So we decided to try growing our own. Initially, that was done entirely internally with training and mentoring carried out by existing team members, supplemented by external training courses and certification. It worked really well, and the first 2 people to go through the scheme have gone on to be very successful within OS, one still as a business analyst and one who's now moved into a lead product owner role. However, the overhead of managing the scheme was quite onerous, so we've now adopted the official UK Business Analyst Level 4 apprenticeship scheme, which we run in conjunction with Assist Knowledge Development, who are the UK's leading kind of business analysis training provider. So all our apprentices now benefit from the guidance of both internal and external mentors throughout the duration of the scheme. They all spend 80% of their time delivering real value to the projects they're working on from day one, but they also spend 20% of their time on off-the-job learning and development and ensure that they're building up the correct range of analysis tools and techniques, behaviours and competencies. During the scheme, the apprentices still take externally certified exams from the BCS, the British Computer Society, and they pass all the modules required for the BCS International Diploma in Business Analysis, which is the standard that we like all our analysts to achieve. At the end of the scheme, which is normally 18 months to 2 years, they're performing at the level we would expect from somebody recruited as a business analyst, with the added benefit that they've been working in the OS environment for a couple of years. At the moment, we have a couple of analysts working on something called the PSGA, the Public Sector Geospatial Agreement, which is the contract OS has with the UK government to support geospatial services to public sector organisations for the next 10 years and forms a massive part of OS revenue. They're working at the programme level and providing assurance that the constituent projects in the programme that fall into the other domains on this slide are coordinated and delivering as required. So those 2 analysts are doing a slightly different role from the rest of the team, who are split between the 3 domains of data capture and engineering, engagement and consumer services, and business and IT services. This slide is designed to give you a bit of a taste of the type of thing we're working on at the moment. So in data capture and engineering, we've spent much of the past couple of years supporting the transformation of data capture processes. So that's the way we aerial imagery is processed to identify changes in the real world that are then fed through into our mapping data and our product updates. And as a result, the process is a lot quicker and a lot more efficient. We're in the middle of a huge initiative to better manage our geospatial data and particularly to integrate it with third-party data or insights from machine learning to add greater attribution and metadata to better create insights for customers. We're becoming more involved in the development of new propositions, primarily for international markets, especially for developing countries where their geospatial capability is not well developed. So base map creation and managed land services are good examples of this. And importantly here, as BAs, we support not just the feasibility and development of a technical solution, but also the business viability and desirability of propositions and how we might make them successful in the international marketplace. In engagement and consumer services, we're working on improving access to our data, whether through APIs or download services, which I know Hannah and Joel are going to talk about a bit later on. We're also involved in shaping projects to establish data sharing platforms where we host data on behalf of third-party organisations such as energy networks or utility companies, and allow controlled access to that shared data. We're working on some really interesting projects to support the use of autonomous vehicles and on underground mapping, again for utility companies. And we're doing work in the kind of consumer application space. So back to the good old days for me of OS Maps, and we're now rolling that out internationally. And we've also got a focus on really improving the customer experience for people as they engage with OS, particularly through our online presence. And finally, in the business and IT services space, we've been really heavily involved in the implementation of new tools and processes to allow pretty much the whole workforce to work remotely recently. and we recently supported the implementation of a new HR system. We're now supporting the introduction of a new ERP system, and particularly the process change that surrounds it. Alongside that, we've done some less high profile but equally important work around data center migrations, video conferencing facilities, help desk services, and we have one analyst who now specializes in things to do with identity and access management and all things cybersecurity that David will talk about a bit later in the session. So across all of these initiatives, we work very closely with project managers and increasingly with product owners, facilitating workshops to scope and prioritize work and to ensure that we're doing the right things for the right reason and we know what success looks like. We also work very closely with solution architects, data architects, engineers and testers to support solution design, sprint planning and estimation, and ensure development teams who do the real work have what they need to deliver in each sprint. So I hope that gives you a bit of a flavour of what business analysis is about in OS, and I'd just like to finish up by sharing the three things that I love most about working for OS. The first is summed up on this slide really, which is the variety of things that we get the chance to work on, and especially the fact that we can see things through right from that initial idea and customer need through to development, delivery and post-implementation support. I also love the fact that OS is, in my opinion at least, really trying to transform itself from an organization that with a 230-year history that had a build it and they will come attitude to creating and selling standard products into an organization that's really trying to understand and anticipate the needs of its existing and potential customers and deliver real value. And finally, it might sound a bit sentimental, but the best thing about working for OS really is the people, and not just in the business analysis team, but across the whole organization. That's it from me. Back to you, Phil.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Chris. Yeah, really, really good insight into the business analysis side of the business there. And obviously, if anyone does have any questions around the business analysis approach or any questions for Chris, please do get them in via the Q&A. Next up, we have Hannah Deacon, who's a software engineer at Ordnance Survey. We're going to find out a little bit more about what she does on a day-to-day, as well as some of the tech used in the team. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Phil. I should be showing my screen now, hopefully. Excuse me if I start coughing in the middle. I'll try not to. So as Phil said, I'm Hannah Deacon. I'm a software engineer at OS, working on one of the systems of engagement development teams. We're part of Engagement Services, which Chris mentioned on his slide, and we work on producing services and APIs to make sure our customers can access all of the incredible geospatial data that OS has available. So I've been at OS for about a year now, but I've been in the IT industry for almost 20 years. So I wanted to share with you a little bit today about my journey to get to OS, a bit about what I do here and how you can find out more. So a bit about me. So believe it or not, my journey started with a program called Robot Wars. I don't know if you've come across it, but essentially what it is contestant build these really cool robots to battle it out against each other with things like flamethrowers. So I thought, yes, robotics is really great fun. And at the same time, I got interested in artificial intelligence. So off I went to uni to study computing and AI. It was about the time of the dot-com bubble, which is when people were out making loads of money in these sort of startup companies. And also there was a lot of hype around the millennium bug, the Y2K bug. So a lot of people were in computing at the time were out there sort of fixing bugs, making lots of money. And then it turns out the dot-com bubble burst and the Y2K bug never actually really happened. And it's about that time when I graduated. So no get-rich-quick schemes for me. Instead, for me, I joined a graduate scheme at a really large multinational company. They're headquartered in the United States, but they have loads of sort of labs all around the world. I worked there for quite a long time, working on mainly Java software, middleware software, in various roles, software test and development. And then after a while, I sort of decided I would try and see what it was like working somewhere a bit smaller. So I went from this really huge multinational company to a little startup where there were 3 of us when I started. And it was quite fun. I was working on website analytics, excuse me, doing some technology with Google suites like Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager, and a lovely little incubator place called IncuHive, which explains why there's a beehive picture there, in case you're wondering. And then I wondered, what would it be like to go even smaller than that? So I left to do a bit of freelancing. So there's me working at home by choice. And then all of a sudden, COVID happened and everybody was working at home and there was no choice about it, really. And I was also launched into the world of homeschooling my 2 kids, which was fun. So anyway, things started to get back to normal a bit. My kids went back to school and I started to realize I was missing being part of a bigger team. So I started having a look around and I saw that OS were hiring for Java software engineers, which absolutely fit the bill perfectly. So why OS? So what attracted me to OS? For me, it really appealed that it's quite big, but it's still got like that homely feel to it. It still feels like you could get to know everyone in the company. And I love that its headquarters are really not that far away from me. So I can pop into the office and see people as well. It's a really exciting time to join OS. It's growing and it's got a really strong vision of where it's heading, as Chris mentioned. So it may sound a bit cheesy, but I really like its values as well. They really resonate with me. These are the official values that have been around for about a year as part of the OS. Think customer, so the customer is at the heart of everything we do. And let's thrive together. So I love working as part of a team, and we've got lovely teams here at OS. Stay ahead, and that this is what Chris was talking about. We're sort of trying to make sure that we're actually now trying to anticipate where the market is and kind of anticipate what we need to do, and also not last but not least, seize the moment. And that's taking opportunities when they come. And of course it helps. I also love maps. I'm no good with a compass, but I do love a good map. So those are the official values, but what does that actually look like in real life? As Chris showed a whole load of examples of some of the interesting work that we're doing here, and it's really quite nice to feel like your work is valued. So for example, we're used by the emergency services, NHS, utility companies, transport planning, more on that later. And we work with some cool technology. I've got a picture of a drone here. I'm not sure that we're actually using drones, but we do have this cool plane with lots of awesome cameras on it that we use to survey the land. So if we're not using drones yet, I'm sure it won't be long before we are. There's all sorts of things work-wise. There's a big commitment to making sure that you're sort of progressing in your career, and if there's any education opportunities or conferences that you want to go to, they'll do their best to kind of fit those in, which is really nice. We had a hackathon last month, all to do with electric vehicle sort of charging and infrastructure. So there's sort of external developers or companies could sign up and work together on projects to solve solutions to these sorts of problems that we're facing using our APIs. So that's quite nice. From a personal point of view, I really, really appreciate the sort of flexibility and trust that we have here. For me, it's so important to be able to pick my kids up from school, for example, when I need to. Then they were very supportive when we had that second lockdown and the kids were at home again. And I also actually really like seeing other people's kids and pets pop up on these meetings. It sort of makes you feel like you're really sort of seeing people outside of just the work environment. So what also works for me is, as with probably quite a few companies, there's been a shift to sort of hybrid working. So you can work remotely, you can work in the office, you can do a bit of both, and that really works well for me too. Oh yeah, we've got a really cool headquarters as well, and that's what we call it, you know, a day in HQ. In terms of culture, it's also lovely. There's lots of things here. we do a lot of fundraising. We've got a corporate charity, but if you've got a particular charity you care about, you can raise funds for them, and the company has a matching scheme. One of the things also about OS is it's probably the most open company I've worked for, in terms of they really value your feedback. So sort of once a week, we have these drop-in town hall sessions where everyone in the department is welcome to come along and bring up any issues that's on their mind. And so it feels like it's like the company really does care about you as a person. So I think that's lovely. But enough of that. That's sort of the why I'm here at OS and why I like it. What do I actually do here? This is like a big oversimplified picture of what I do. So the problem at the moment, we've got this amazing data, loads of it, and we need to get it to the customers. So the bit I work on is in the middle. I work on the backend Java services and the Java APIs that allow us to get that data to our customers. There's also some front-end work that happens in other teams, sort of the Node and React work that's on this slide here. So I'm a Java developer, as I said. So I'm technically on the API team at the moment, and so I'm aware that API is an acronym that gets bandied around, and not everyone may completely know what it is. So an API is an application programming interface. Essentially, it's like an interface between two bits of software. So for us, what that means is that customers can get our data into their applications or into their software or workflows. So our APIs might be used, for example, in web or mobile applications, GIS software, or data science workflows. What's important that we need to do is we need to make sure our APIs and data are accurate and up to date. So especially geospatial data, for example, if it's out of date, then, for example, emergency services might be going to like the wrong location or something. So it's not ideal. We have about, I think it's about 20,000 updates a day. So we need to make sure that we reflect that in what the customer sees. We need to make sure our APIs are easy for our customers to use, and also that it's gone, sorry. And also that they're discoverable. So at the moment, we've got lots of different APIs that you can look for, and sometimes the customers may not know fully what's available. So that's what discoverable means, making sure that they know what we have. So that's the what of what we do. How do we do it? As Chris mentioned, we are using agile methodologies, agile processes. So our teams work in 3-week sprints. So at the end of each sprint, we have like these demonstration sessions where all the teams come along to, any stakeholders or interested parties can come along to and see what all the teams have been up to. And also we have retrospectives, sprint retrospectives, where we sort of cover what went well and what didn't go well that sprint and take actions to sort of improve things. And the various sprint planning and estimation sort of meetings that go with Agile. We tend to track our work on a daily basis in our daily stand-up meetings, and we use Azure DevOps to kind of track our sprints and backlogs. That's also where our pipelines and our repositories sit. So we've got like nice continuous integration story. And that leads nicely into my slide of technologies. So these are just a sort of whistle-stop tour of some of the technologies that we use on our teams. So we've got some database technologies there, like PostgreSQL and PostGIS. Then the Azure, the cloud-based technologies. We've got DevOps and Azure Portal. So Azure Portal is where we deploy our applications and our databases too. Most of the applications that we work on, as I mentioned, are sort of Java-based. We use the Spring Boot framework normally, and I added in our unit testing is normally done with JUnit and Mockito. And I love the Mockito logo, so I had to add it in. And the front end work is in React and Node, as we mentioned earlier. So that's kind of it from me. If you're curious to find out more, please do go to this website. I'll hopefully get the link pasted into the chat. This is our data hub, Ordnance Survey Data Hub. It's where you can sign up for a free account and have a play with our APIs and our data. Please do have a look. Thank you very much for your time. I'll hand back to Phil now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hannah. That was great. I think really good insight into not just the kind of culture and the day-to-day, but also very nice to see a little bit of insight into the tech that is being used as well. I know a lot of our listeners out there always very interested to hear that side of it. With regards to that link, we can definitely get that into the follow-up email as well. So if anyone doesn't get a chance to take a look right now, we can follow up with that afterwards. And just great to hear mention of Robot Wars. I think that's a first on the HackerJob webinars, and always pleased to hear mention. So yeah, another record ticked off. So yeah, without further ado, I'll hand over to Joel Perrin, who is an associate engineer at Ordnance Survey. Thank you.
Thank you. Just get this started. I'm hoping everyone can see my screen.
Yep.
And hear me. They're the two most important things when you're presenting. So yeah, hi, I'm Joel. I'm an associate engineer, also in engagement services. So very similar sort of team to Hannah. I joined the OS in sort of April 2020. So I had my interview in the office pre-COVID and then started work pretty much right after we first locked down. Which was a bit weird, but actually totally fine, as we will discuss. But yeah, so I joined as a trainee engineer, basically. I didn't have a computer science degree or anything like that, so I learned essentially on the job how to do coding, which was awesome. So for this, I'm basically just going to give a little overview of what that was like, the sort of progression from going through the training scheme to now what I'm doing as an associate engineer. So yeah, I thought I'd start off just with a bit about my early career and stuff like that. So as I say, no computer science degree. I did a geography undergraduate degree in Newcastle, and then I came back to do a master's in GIS, which depending on who you ask is geographical information systems or geographical information science. I don't think I have an opinion on that, but that's what it is. It was very interesting. Did a little bit of coding as part of that degree, but it was mostly like spatial analysis sort of stuff. And then from there, I got a job in transport planning, doing micro simulation transport modeling, which was pretty cool. It's basically like SimCity, but real. You sort of build these cool little road networks where the little blue cars drive around, and you model that and stuff. But I'd done that for a couple of years, and I thought it probably wasn't going to be the career for me. And as part of it, I had written a couple of scripts to sort of automate the more boring tasks you come across in your day-to-day jobs. So for example, we had this one task where we had to essentially sit down at a computer and do like 200 Google Maps direction queries and like write down the roads that the cars would go on to get out of the development site. It took forever. So I wrote this cool little JavaScript app to sort of automate the process, which is what these two images are. So this is like the nice user interface I spent way too long on. And it worked really well. I think in hindsight, it's probably not the most robust code ever. I found an old bit of code here, and I think I'm just like console logging out if it didn't work, which is probably not robust software engineering best practice. But there you go. Who knew any better? Not me. So yeah, 2 years into that, I was like, I want to change career. I want to do some software engineering. I've loved the coding stuff, and I thought, sat down and just had to think about which companies I thought would be good to work for. And would be interesting, and I sort of came up with a couple, like National Trust I thought would be kind of cool, OS I thought would be kind of cool. So I went onto the OS's website and onto their job board, and just happened that the day I checked, the trainee scheme was there, and it was like, you know, come and learn how to be a software engineer. You don't need to have done a computer science degree. And I was like, oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty spot on. So I applied for that. It was the only job I applied for, and happened to get it, which was awesome. Sounds like I totally made that up, but I promise that was literally what happened. It kind of felt like fate. So yeah, I started, as I said, the trainee scheme in April 2020. So I thought I'd just give an overview of sort of what that was like and what I did. So yeah, for the first couple of months, it was really a lot of meeting the people in the OS, learning about their roles. So all of what we've been hearing about now, I was just sort of learning all of that. And I was put on the team working on the data hub, which Hannah's just showed you. And initially, right off the bat, there were a bunch of like instructor-led training courses that I got put on. So one's on like JavaScript and Node.js, and a course on React, a course on Azure, which is our cloud platform, and how we use that. And then also one on Microsoft Power BI, which I don't think I've ever used since, but you know, it was interesting. It's good that they are willing to invest in their employees. And then there's a lot of independent learning on a website called Treehouse, which has a load of sort of video courses and that sort of stuff on various like programming and life skills topics in general. And for me, I'm a very independent learner, so that was awesome. Definitely learned loads off Treehouse. And then moving later, sort of got to apply those learnings to the actual role. So I started off working with my mentor, which you get assigned as basically a software engineer. You were assigned when you start the training scheme. It was a guy called Ray. It's an absolutely awesome guy. And started working with him. Initially, it was sort of watching him, you know, tackle tickets and learning, you know, how to navigate around, you know, Azure and DevOps and where to push code to and pull down from and all that sort of stuff. And then after that, done that for a bit, I actually started helping him write the code. And then finally ended up taking on a couple of small tickets myself, which was a super cool feeling a couple of months in. So I went back and dug up the first the first PR I ever submitted, which was, I think, just like a quite little bug fix, but obviously I didn't address all of the comments, but you can't win them all. Yeah, and then after that, things changed direction a bit. Previously, I'd been working on a lot of JavaScript sort of stuff, and then in October around that time, I was asked if I wanted to start working on Java, and I was like, well, I don't know. It's got 4 of the letters that JavaScript has. I guess it'll be all right. So I started working on that, and I got this cool little greenfield project to build basically an internal API for data validation. And it was really interesting. I learned loads about Spring and Java, and definitely went back to Treehouse to watch some videos. And then I also got this cool experience of like, okay, I've got the code written. Now, how do I actually deploy it up into the cloud, which is this great term that gets used all the time for literally everything. And I guess what I learned was that the continuous integration stuff is actually kind of difficult. There was a lot of trial and error. This isn't actually from the first bit of work I did. This is from some work I was doing yesterday. I still can't get the deployment stuff first time. It definitely takes a lot of trial and error. But I think that's a really important learning point that the training scheme teaches you, is that it's okay to, you know, try stuff, and you're probably not going to get everything first time, but you know, you will be able to do it as you learn. So then coming into 2021 and the end of the trainee scheme, me and a couple of the other trainees on our team were basically assigned a project. So another team in the OS had come to us asking if we could spare some time to build them a tool to simplify one of their workflows that was taking up a lot of time. So we got that assigned as a trainee task, which was awesome, because essentially I think it was 3 of us, and as trainees got to design and code and test and productionize basically an entire system from scratch, which was really cool. I mean, it was nice and simple. There's a little diagram I drew when we were doing it over here, but it was basically just a Node.js app that, you know, called to some Azure storage stuff and communicated with other services via a REST endpoint. But it was just a really great trainee task, and I think definitely speaks to the training scheme as a whole, that it was something they were willing to give us with 10 months of experience to build something that people were actually going to use, and was just awesome for consolidating all of that learning and knowledge and stuff that we'd been doing for the last year. And yeah, and that was definitely then topped off by graduating from the trainee scheme, which was super cool. So then went on to become an associate engineer, which is where I'm at now. So I've got this little review of the things that I thought were good about the trainee scheme. I mean, I've basically put, you know, in a year, bit less than a year, I basically had gone from not really knowing anything about coding, short of a few scripts that I'd written that console logged out when they failed, to learning how to develop like robust and production-ready software that was well tested and things. And I've worked with like a huge range of technologies. I mean, in this presentation, I think I've mentioned, you know, Node.js, Java, Spring Boot, React, DevOps. There's loads more as well. There's like PowerShell. There's just tons and tons of stuff that I've had the opportunity to work with. So it's really interesting. You're definitely not siloed. And yeah, obviously, you know, after 8 months, you're not a professional, you're not a superstar, but you definitely know after the end of the training scheme that you can approach things that you don't know confidently, because you know that you're going to be able to learn it. You're definitely confident in your own ability to learn, and you also know that there's a good support of all of your team around you who will be able to help you out if you get stuck, and there's definitely people to go to. So just quickly then, in the last year, Hannah and I have been working on this National Geographic Database project, which is basically about further improving the access to like the huge amount of data that the Ordnance Survey holds. So for us, that has basically involved bringing in all of that data into a couple of Postgres databases, and then building a bunch of APIs and tools on top of them to expose that data out to the customers. I think it's a great project. I can definitely see how it's going to help people. I remember working as a transport planner and wishing that the OS's data was like easier to access. And I was like going through their pages, looking at all the partners and trying to figure out like how on earth I just got this thing I needed. And if it had been 4 years later, I'd have just been able to go into the OS Data Hub and download it. So it's really cool to be working on something that I can definitely see the benefit in myself. So yeah, just to wrap up, I thought I'd just give a couple of thoughts about the things that I think are the best for OS. I've touched on most of these already, and so have Hannah and Chris. But yeah, the work is extremely varied, and you definitely get to use a huge range of technologies. You're not just a developer; you can also help out with the testing and the operations and everything. You know, you're highly involved in everything. You're trusted to use your initiative to solve problems. So you don't tend to get handed solutions down on high and have to do exactly what they say. They definitely trust us to explore the possible solutions and decide on the best one and then implement that well, which is really, really good. And yeah, as I mentioned, I feel like the outcomes of the work that the OS do are like directly beneficial to society and the country as a whole, which is something that I think is very important when it comes to just being optimistic about your work and things like that. It definitely helps keep me driven. So yeah, that is me. I'll pass back over to you, Phil, and thank you all for listening.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Joel. Again, another really engaging talk there. I think we're getting lots of different perspectives here, which is really nice. And I think, yeah, for anyone who is looking for a foot in the door or looking for that support to really kind of kick on and, the kind of first step in their career, I think Ordnance Survey sounds like an incredible place to kind of take that journey. And finally, last but not least, we now have David Hutchins, who is a cybersecurity analyst at Ordnance Survey, and we're going to find out a little bit more about his department now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Phil. So hello, everyone. My name is David Hutchins. I am, as just said, actually, an analyst with the Ordnance Survey cyber team. I'm a recent joiner. I think it speaks greatly of Ordnance Survey and the culture growth. Actually, we've got two different types, or I suppose a length of service people that tend to be in OS. Those that have been here forever, and those that have joined recently with our recent growth and modernisation. All of which all seem to go, why didn't I start here earlier? Which seems to be where I land. So as one of those people in the new category, as it were, I was looking for my next step in my cyber career. And like Joel, I wanted somewhere which had a modern culture around the workforce and the leadership, but also made a positive impact in the world. And I can't understate how much actually I wish I had started working for Ordnance Survey sooner. It's not a magical utopia. I don't personally gel with absolutely every individual that is here. I mean, I'm an autistic dyslexic with a very surreal sense of humor. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but there are many, many things that make the difference for me. For example, you're treated as an adult when you book your leave. Literally, you check to make sure your team has enough cover. You enter it in the leave system, you hit submit, and it's booked. There's no double checking with line managers. None of that child relationship. Is literally you are an adult. There's genuine flexible working, and while timesheets are used for budgeting project costs, the focus is on our objectives and not the how and the when you do your work. Makes a big difference to me. So I'm not trying to sound like a sycophant, but I really do like working for Ordnance Survey. But let's have a look at our cyber team and how we break that down. My magic buttons work, which they never do. Let's click. So we all report into the head of cyber. We don't have much more line management in between at the moment, who reports directly to Joe Shannon, who, as Phil said, has been on our lovely Hackaday, Hackajob podcasts. And to say that we report directly that high up shows how much security is on the agenda for our board and throughout OS. It's wonderful, really. Now, we're not solely responsible for all security throughout Ordnance Survey. We've got other operational teams that are accountable for the servers, the endpoints, those APIs that Hannah and Joel get to develop. We've got technology architects, the project managers, even the business analysts, all playing their part, embedding the security principles and controls across all of Ordnance Survey. But the cyber team has that overarching visibility and responsibility, and we get involved in all aspects of it, and we get to join the pieces together. So where smaller areas might see something over there and someone else sees it, we get to join the two together and go, oh, actually, there's a bit more to this. And that's one of the joys that I get to do as an analyst. So we're a growing team. We currently have 4 analysts. We're looking to get 2 more of them. We're reinstating our security architect, and we've got 3 consultants. We want at least 1 more, if not 2 more of them. And we've got 1 out for advert at the moment. So Bona always knows more about that. So it's all there supporting this growth that Ordnance Survey's got across all those work streams that Hannah and Chris and everyone else have pointed out. There's a lot going on. It's constantly moving. It's very interesting to keep it secure. So if we break down a little more into cyber, we get this wonderful career path map. So if we start with the sort of cyber operations thing, that's where, similar to the development line that Joel came in through, that's where our trainees can come in, getting that initial view of the world, view of cyber up through associate, become a security analyst like me, and do that. Oh, shall we split out? Now, our cyber operations team get to be responsible for all of our tools. So our SIEM with all the logs and the alerts that comes with, the web application firewalls, our vulnerability scanners, all our internet and content filtering, all of that belongs to the cyber operations team. It keeps us very busy. Oh, I've lost my place, can you tell? And then you get the cyber consultants. So this area steps a bit further away from the direct technical hands-on of our security world and into that wonderful world in standards, compliance, and that side of things, risk management, and those complex investigations and incidents that you've got to manage, all around, all the different projects, all the different bits of Ordnance Survey. They're very, very busy people. I'm jealous at times and glad that I've got my SIEM to shout at me with alerts a lot of the rest of the time. And then we've got our lovely security architect role. Now that's coming back in. They get to ensure that all of our cyber tools are there, so that we're all there, fit for purpose, all the stuff that is being used in the cloud, the stuff that Joel's been talking about with the lovely DevOps, all happening in there, making sure that we get the right tools embedded there, as well as making sure that our SIEM is fit for purpose, our vulnerability scanners actually scan our estate, all that side of things, and those fundamental building blocks that we've got throughout an Ordnance Survey. And then ultimately, whichever path you go down, you could try and become head of cyber. Step even further away from technical and go for that wonderful role of full strategy and politics, which, well, yeah, I don't know if I'm envious of the head of cyber in any way, shape or form, some of the stuff that they get to juggle. We'll see if that hits my career at some point. So, yeah, hopefully that's given you a nice overview of what we do, different parts were there. I think that's kind of me. So I hope we've all the presentations have been helpful to you. I've learned more about the different areas actually listening to this than I knew before. So hopefully you found it helpful as well. And I really do think you should come and work for us because I like it here. Phil.
Lovely. Thank you very much, David. I think, yeah, again, really, really good to get that different insight into things. Very, very honest. And that's exactly what we're looking for here on the webinar. I think it gives it a really, really clear indication and really clear insight into what it's like to work at Ordnance Survey on a day-to-day. So thank you very much, David. Excellent. So now we're going to dive into the Q&A section. We are joined by Saborna from the recruitment team at Ordnance Survey. So we do have someone to go to for all of those kind of recruitment and L&D questions as well. So don't worry, we'll be able to get anything you're kind of submitting answered. So I think, Chris, just to come to you first, it's actually the first question that we had come in. So what is the most challenging part of being a business analyst at Ordnance Survey? I suppose, are there any challenges that are very unique to Ordnance Survey and to the kind of the GIS world?
I'm not sure that it's a challenge that's unique to Ordnance Survey, although it's probably exacerbated by its 230 years of history. OS is very proud of its reputation for quality data and putting out highly respected, authoritative products. So there's a reticence sometimes to put out things that are kind of not perfect. And sometimes that comes at the cost of being able to put something out quickly and turn around and be responsive. So the identification of early value and being able to put something out and build on it rather than waiting for everything to be polished is probably our biggest challenge in kind of putting projects together.
Fantastic, excellent. And I suppose, you know, on the positive side of that, a focus on quality is never a bad thing. So yeah,
I never suggested it was. No.
Fantastic, excellent. And Hannah, if we could come to you next. Obviously, joining a business during the pandemic is something that, you know, lots of people out there have experienced. It'd be great just to get your take on how was it joining Ordnance Survey, you know, during quite a tumultuous time. What was that onboarding experience like? Obviously, fully remote.
So actually, it sort of worked really well for me. I didn't join at the start of the pandemic, so actually OS had a little bit of time to get used to the way of remote working. So when I joined, they were already in the pattern of having sort of 2 daily meetings a day. One's the official stand-up, and one was just sort of a team chat, so that you were sort of in contact with everyone. So it never really felt isolated. And I was also quite lucky in that the first day I joined, I got to go to the office to meet my sort of senior manager and get my laptop. But actually working remotely to start with worked really well for me because we use Macs in our team, and I'd never used a Mac before, so I could get through all the initial kind of the sort of learning about the laptop without anyone sort of seeing just how I didn't know all the shortcuts and things like that. So it was really good. The hardest thing is actually when you do meet people in real life, you don't recognize them because you're so used to seeing them on a screen. All of a sudden you see them in real life, they look completely different. They're taller or shorter than you imagine. So that was a bit strange, but yeah, it worked well for me.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something we've heard echoed across, you know, lots of different companies. Actually, there are a lot of benefits to it, you know, in terms, particularly on like the nerve side of things and things like that. And yeah, definitely the height thing, I think, is the one that stood out the most. We hired a few people during the pandemic that I had no idea were absolute giants until I walked into the office. So yeah, it was a strange one. Thank you very much, Hannah. So Joel, if we could come to you next. So we've had one question come in which says, what advantage are there of using Node.js and Spring Boot over others? And would you be open to different ones in future? So I guess, first of all, you know, why are Node and kind of Java and Spring Boot the kind of best tools for the job at the moment? And are there any other technologies that you have in mind or that maybe the team are looking to onboard moving forward?
Sure. So I think the OS as a whole in different teams uses a wide range of like technologies and things. Like I know there are teams who develop in C# and there's teams who do a lot of development in Python, and then there's, you know, mine and Hannah's team do a lot of Java, and the front end stuff is a lot of you know, JavaScript and Node. I think for most software engineering tasks you could probably pick any number of languages or frameworks to do what you want. You don't have to choose a particular one. So it's often not so much a matter of like what is the absolute best. It's what can you use to get the job done that you're comfortable with. So certainly for the work that we've started, that was all greenfield, and we made the choice of using Java for that because we have like good levels of Java experience in the team. You know, I'd been learning it for 6 months in the trainee scheme. There were a couple of other Java engineers on that team when it started. And the Spring framework is just a really mature robust framework for quickly, building applications. And I think in software engineering, especially these days with our agile stuff, it's all about being able to move fast and iterate quickly. So that's why we chose Java for our stack. I think if someone had a real compelling case for using, C# or something, and had presented that, we could have gone that way just as easily. So yeah, the good thing about OS is that you can learn lots of different stuff. I'm sure I won't just do Java for the rest of my career. I'm sure at some point I'll dabble in, C# or anything else.
Fantastic. No, thank you very much for your answer there, Joel. I think really, really detailed. And I had a couple of people pop up during that saying you answered some other questions as you were going. So very, very nice to see. David, if we could come to you next. So it's just around the kind of collaboration. So obviously you sit within the CyberSec team. So how collaborative is the work between the various teams that are involved in obviously engineering a product?
Very, and there's not enough of us. So our consultants tend to get involved in the big wide stuff. 90% of projects will ask for a consultant. Very few of them will get them because we've got 3 people, and the amount of work that's there. So there's a lot that actually the collaboration comes in with us trying to make sure we've got the right underlying information out there. And we've got a big internal project at the moment to try and upskill everybody so that everyone's got that newer base level of security knowledge. But every time we've had, an R incident, minor, major, whatever else, never any issues whatsoever with the engagement with other teams, them helping us helping them when they've got a quirky thing going on. It's very fluid and it's very nice.
Fantastic, excellent. And obviously we've got members from 3-4 different departments here, so it's great to see everyone is obviously working together really collaboratively across those different departments. Fantastic. Suborna, it'd be great to come to you next, just to get a bit of insight into the recruitment side. I think obviously a lot of the people out there listening no doubt have had their interest piqued by a lot of this content. So first things first, I think we've had a couple of questions around the kind of learning and development side of things. So if you want to maybe give us a bit of insight into what is the approach to L&D at Ordnance Survey.
Yeah, of course. So hi everyone. So at Ordnance Survey, we're really dedicated in terms of offering an environment for you to come in and utilize your skills and experience, but we also want to offer a platform where you can learn and develop as well. Your personal development's really key to us. We've got a dedicated learning and development team which can offer various things such as certifications, webinars, conferences, other activities that you can get involved in. So that's really key. You can work really closely with them. We also understand and recognise that people learn differently. So it's important for us to offer different learning and development opportunities. So on-the-job training, mentorships, and loads of other factors and opportunities to enable you to grow and enhance your knowledge within the key skills that you're looking to grow within.
Fantastic. Excellent. And then we've had a couple of questions around kind of cross-training as well, particularly with the trainee scheme in mind. So I guess at any level, are you open to people cross-training from other areas of technology, maybe from C# to Java, for example? Is the trainee scheme just for like kind of recent graduates? Maybe give us a bit of insight into that side of things.
So in terms of the trainee programme, we do run that twice a year. So that's mainly in March and October. Initially, you're starting off in some of the key areas such as Java, JavaScript, C# or Python. But whilst you're within OS, there's opportunities for you to kind of collaborate with different projects and different teams as well. We are one OS, it's all about us learning and developing together. So I think that's really important. So once you've completed the programme, if you feel there's a key area that you really want to specialise within or gain more knowledge within, we can direct your career and path towards that. Again, throughout your career within OS, you will be constantly working with different projects and teams. So again, it's not just about focusing on one particular technology, you'll gain loads of different opportunities as well.
Fantastic. So I think, message is the door's open, right? If
Exactly.
You're interested, if you've heard a lot that you're interested in today's webinar, then get in touch. I think, regardless what seniority you're at, what your stack is now, there's a conversation to be had. And just when did the next set of trainee schemes kick off?
The next one will go in for March, April for next year, but we will tend to go live by the end of this year, early next year. So please do keep an eye out for that.
Fantastic. And then if we could just get a little insight into the types of roles that you're hiring for, and maybe what is the standard interview process, and then we'll try and dig into a few more questions for the team.
Of course, so please do have a look on our careers site. We've got loads of opportunities available. A lot of that is due to business growth. So that's just due to our PSGA project going live. So we've got a 10-year investment there, so loads of opportunities. Key areas that we are looking for are engineers within Java, JavaScript, C# and Python and Scala. We've also got opportunities within data engineering as well, and the testing environment. We will soon be going live for business analysts, so please do keep a lookout for that. And again, our cyber team is growing, so we've got analysts, consultants and architects going live there as well.
Lovely, thank you very much. Great, so good to get some really good insight there into the recruitment side of things. And I think, yeah, the message across all of that is look, let's get in touch. So you can obviously check out Ordnance Survey's career site. And as mentioned at the start of the webinar, we will be following up with an email, which we can include any links, any contact details in terms of how you can find out a little bit more. Great, Chris, if we could just come back to you quickly. So obviously you mentioned, you know, the kind of long history of Ordnance Survey. So how has Ordnance Survey been able to keep up with the times since it's been around for such a long time? And how do you ensure that you're at the forefront of geospatial tech?
Wow, there's a question. I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer the question about geospatial tech personally, but in terms of keeping up with the times, I can only talk about 6 of the 230 odd years, but I guess in some ways, we haven't been brilliant at that in some of our products and services, and that's why we've had to do some more kind of transformational changes recently. And I think we're very conscious of that as an organisation now, and we're building in that change capability into the things that we're building now to make future change easier than it has been in the past. Change is happening at a far greater rate now than it ever has done in the past, and it's something we are very, very conscious of that we need to be better at. And there are also more competitors out there for us than there ever have been in the past. So again, we're conscious of that.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And Hannah, it'd be good to maybe come to you on the second part of that. I mean, just and it may not be that, you know, you're kind of mapping out new software. But what is the process of onboarding new tech, and how does that decision come about? If you've got some insight into that.
So I tend to not work on the geospatial tech. So, but in terms of our technology and our teams, so as Joel mentioned, we do have quite a lot of free rein to go out and explore all the options and to come back and suggest different technologies that we could use. So in terms of the forefront of geospatial tech, I'm not sure who would be the best person to speak to about that.
No.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries at all. I think, look, it's really good to hear how collaborative and how easy it is to kind of make those suggestions of new tech to be onboarded within the team. I think that's, you know, going to be something that's really interesting to everyone out there listening in. And again, if you do have further questions around the specific geospatial stuff, then get in touch afterwards, and I'm sure we can hook you up with the correct person at Ordnance Survey to really answer any questions around all of that. Fantastic. So just coming up towards the end of the webinar, David, if we could come to you very quickly. Again, we just have had a question around security clearance. Obviously, you work in the security team, so seem to be the man to come to on this. Yeah, are you working on any kind of high security projects, in which case you're going to need kind of DV or SC clearance?
So at the moment, our team as a base doesn't need it, due to the fact that we see the activity of what happens rather than the data itself. So we've got a great separation of duties going on there. There are projects that we've got with sensitive data, with people that do need clearance. So Barna's nodding away there, as is Chris, because they have to deal with it and manage it. But no, for the roles we're looking for at the moment, no, it's not a barrier. I don't think it's a barrier in other places either. I'm sure Sabana will be able to explain more how they onboard people that do need it.
Fantastic. Yes, Sabana, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, of course. So all new joiners will have a DBS check, but certain projects where there is sensitive data, etc., would need a security clearance. Again, that's all paid for and done via us. And and we will discuss that with you before you join as well.
Lovely. Excellent. So that is now us at time. So look, thank you very much to everyone who's spoken or answered questions on today's webinar. I think it's been a really engaging one. And yeah, I've mentioned it many times during the webinar, but please do keep an eye out on your emails. We will be following up with all the relevant links, all the relevant contact details if you're interested in moving forward with Ordnance Survey. And I don't know why you wouldn't be after today's webinar. Then please do follow up on that. Thank you all for joining, and thank you once again to all of our speakers. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.